Airbnb has completely transformed our lives. How we use Airbnb to make money is we use the business model called rent to rent. This is where we don't own a property, but we control a property by renting it. We rent it from the landlord at a fixed rental price, for example, £1,000 a month, and then we place the property on Airbnb for £100 a night. If the property was occupied for 25 nights,
that would accumulate to £2,500 in revenue. But we do have to remember to pay the landlord and also pay for the bills, which is £1,000 rent, £500 bills, and it leaves us with £1,000 of net profit. With this business model, we did not have to reinvent the wheel. The model itself, we repeated numerous times to the point that it allowed us to move out, give back to our families, take them on holidays. It has essentially completely transformed our lives at the age of 21. Let's go back before we started. I lived in many temporary accommodations and I moved around ever since the age of 2 years old. My mom grew up in India and she came to the UK thinking that she would have a much better life, and essentially she wanted to give her children the opportunity to get better education. However, as I grew up, I quickly came to realize that the education system was built out to produce workers.
Both of our parents moved from third world countries to here in the UK, and they sacrificed their life for our better education. We felt like we had a duty to fulfill our parents' dreams, which is to go to university, get a job, and get paid well from the job. But things took a turn when we went to school, we didn't get the best grades, and we ended up not going to university. We generally felt like failures because throughout all our lives, our parents told us, if you don't go to university, you can't get a good job. If you can't get a good job, then you cannot get paid well, which would result in the sacrifice that they made for us originally being a total waste.
So because school didn't go well, we decided to both get jobs in retail in hopes that maybe we could work our way up. So we went into the venture of also on the side saving up our money. However, working in that environment and having the conversations with our colleagues, asking them, how long have you been working here? And their response being 20, 30 years, we just could not imagine ourselves bearing the same environment for that long. And that's when it clicked that we needed to get out of the situation. And the only way of doing that is to save up the money that we were earning and make sure that these jobs were only going to be a temporary footstep in our path to entrepreneurship. The main job that I had at Costco was working at the front end, and that was serving people on the tills, that was cleaning toilets, and also wiping the floors on the stairs and breakout area as well. I did feel really dehumanized and degraded. I don't think Lena knows this, but when she'd come to Costco, I would purposely make sure I'm hiding when doing these tasks. The stairs I would clean, they were right in front of the tills, and I was very, very embarrassed to be, doing very derogatory tasks. So I was working 40 hours a week at Costco full-time and doing overtime as well. And on the side, because I felt like that was not enough, I was also reselling things like air fryers, teddy bears for an extra £5 to £10 of profit. And this allowed me over the year to be able to save up to £20,000. At that point, I was just wondering, what do I do with this money? And I think Lena was also at that same point where she was working at Morrison's. She was saving up these huge pot of money, and it just got to a point where we had thousands of pounds but nowhere to put it in. And we just knew that if we continued to work in our jobs and continue to just save, we eventually would just save for nothing.
So this money that we were saving up, we were thinking of using it on something that we were going to invest in, but we had no idea what we were going to invest in. We just knew that we had to live below our means and live very frugally. If we spent all our money, there's no point of working in the first place. At 18, our main goal was to find a business that we could potentially start, and we wanted to find a business where we could learn a high income skill and then use this skill to generate money passively, to be able to spend time with our family and be able to travel freely and still generate money. Eventually we saved enough money to start our Airbnb business. We found a landlord and we pitched to him what we wanted to do to his property, And after multiple rejections, we finally got our first yes. The rent for this property was £800 a month and the bills were £340 a month. This property would generate us from £1,000 to £1,500 per month.
After the first month, we saw that the property was making us some great returns. And so we decided to take on a second property and then a third property. And we continued to do this until, we got to 5 properties. And even then, although we were generating anywhere from £5,000 to £7,000 per month, we still didn't feel like we were satisfied with that money. We just wanted to continue to grow and grow because we had a very bigger purpose, which was still to give back to our families. And I don't think £7,000 was going to be able to fund that, considering the possibilities in this business model was endless. By the third property, we had already left our jobs and we went all into making sure that this business was going to work. That was the only thing that was on our mind. We had to make this work. There was no second option. Around that time, as mentioned, we were making around £5,000 to £7,000 per month. And we could have easily, as teenagers, went and splashed that money out on designer garms and things that were only going to give us temporary fulfillment and happiness. However, we decided not to splash our money and we were quite sensible because our end goal was to make sure that we were able to turn around 6 figures per month, and we ended up achieving that.
It wasn't as easy as it sounds. It did take a lot of long nights and very early mornings for us to get to that point. I'd say it probably took a full year of us not looking after ourselves. We did not pay ourselves. We were constantly just focusing on this business and launching it to a point where it was sustainable. There were many times where we were thinking, why are we doing this? Should we give up? Is there a point in even moving forward? We really had to remember what our why was because we didn't want to go back to our jobs. Although we didn't want to go back to our jobs, we felt like this was becoming a second job for us. We found ourselves being the cleaners for our properties. We found ourselves being the plumbers for the properties and being the interior designers for the properties. We found ourselves getting extremely drained by the multiple tasks we were doing. So systems had to be built. We hired a full cleaning team who would take care of the guests that check out and the guests that check in. They would take pictures of how the property looks before the clean and after the clean, and it would get sent straight to our phones. We also outsourced all the maintenance tasks that needed to be performed in our business. This could have been, for example, guests who might accidentally have broken the curtain pole, or maybe the door handle had come off. All these different tasks would really add up. Before, we used to spend an hour plus multiple other hours in sorting the issue, finding out on YouTube, researching how to fix the problem. But now outsourcing meant that we didn't have to leave our homes, and it's something that we could sit comfortably and just make sure the task was done and also charge the guests for the damage. So we went from working a lot of hours in our jobs to working a lot of hours in our business. However, once we had systemized the business, it meant that we had much more time to give back to our families, which is something that we always really wanted to do. I recently took my mum and my baby sister on a surprise holiday to Turkey, and I was able to remotely run the business from another country from the luxury of my laptop. It's crazy to think how it was only a year ago where we lived in a really low-end area to today where we're living in a £500,000 house. And for years I was manifesting this certain car, and this year I managed to get it straight from the dealership. The only reason why we're sharing this with you is to inspire you and just to let you know your past does not have to define your future. If you put your mind to something and back it up with perfect execution, then there is no reason why you will fail. The only secret to mine and Lena's success is that we were relentless. We were relentlessly working hours, days and nights until we were able to sit back now and allow our team to manage everything for us. But for a very long time, we did everything ourselves. With a lot of money comes a lot of big problems, because now you're not just working another 9-to-5 job where you can go in, your boss tells you what to do and you leave. You are actually your own boss, which means that there's no one on top of you telling you what you should be doing. You are the one that needs to delegate tasks to your team to make sure that there's good execution across the board. However, since money can only solve money problems, if you have issues in your personal life that is going to be affecting your business, just know
know that this is something that you need to solve.
You can define your success however you would like. Some people define success as having a big house. Some people define success as having a private jet. Whatever you define as success, as long as you believe that you can achieve it. Me and Uzma were extremely stubborn to our goals. Every time we would fail, we would always say to ourselves, we are going to make this work. There was never a time where we felt like we were permanently going to stop on our business. And whether you want to start Airbnb or any other business model, you need to have the same mentality. If there's something you want to do, I truly think you should go and do it. What's the worst that could happen? What have you got to lose? There's a quote that me and Uzma have always stood by, and it's the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time to start is today.